Hello, hello. We are live. Give you guys a minute to get in here as we get into episode 3 of 3. This is episode 3 of 3. I talked to you guys over the last 2 weeks about, guess what? Clutter. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the question, should I keep this? And this is something called practicing the art of wastebasketry. Okay, so when you are trying to make decisions about information that's coming into your life, whether it's physical paper, email, digital stuff, whatever, you often have the question of should I keep this, or can I safely toss it? All right, so let's, in episode 1, I talked about the hidden costs of keeping too much information, right? So the hidden costs of keeping you can keep anything that you want as long as you're willing to pay the price. And that price is in time, space, money, and energy. So there are additional hidden costs. That's right, we call it the cost factor. There are additional hidden costs to keeping too much information. We talked about that in episode 1, and we will make sure there's a link to that episode in the description. Okay, episode 2, we talked about the 6 information management questions that help us. It's really something for you to, it helps you decide what information you need to keep, for how long. I'm not going to go through all the 7. You need to go watch that one. But, who needs access to it? Who's responsible for it? So there are very specific questions about information that you do keep. Okay. But then we got to get practical. How do you know whether to keep something or not? Right? So you come across the question, whether you're staring at a piece of paper, an email, a file, a photo, a note, or even an AI conversation, and you're asking, should I keep this? Okay. So you might even know our structure, our ART structure of action. Is this an action? Is this a reference, or can I toss it? And when you might say, oh, no, it's not really an action. No, I'm not sure about it being a reference. I'm just not sure. And then you get to the last one, can I toss this? And you're just kind of frozen. Like, I don't know. Can I? So we're going to walk through what we call the art of wastebasketry to help you figure out if you should keep something or if it's okay to toss it. Okay. So let me just remind you, our goal is not for you to throw everything away. Okay. That's not our goal. And it's not our role to tell you what you should keep or not keep. Okay. But we ask questions to help you decide. Okay, because you may or may not have known this, but organizing is not a filing problem. It's a decision-making problem. And we are all about how to make decisions. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, welcome to PEPTalk, Productive Environment Podcast. I am Andrea Anderson. I'm CEO of Productive Environment Institute, and I'm joining you from Carolina Beach, North Carolina. So let's talk about why this matters at all anyway, right? So many people believe that clutter comes from having too much stuff. Well, why do you have clutter? Well, I have too much stuff, right? And as you know, if you've been in our community for very long, and if you're new to us, you're going to learn a phrase that we say often, quoting Barbara Hemphill, which is clutter is postponed decisions. Okay, that ties in here. It ties in pretty much with every podcast that we do. So every pile represents decisions waiting to be made. Every overflowing inbox, whether it's email inbox or physical inbox, every overflowing inbox represents decisions waiting to be made. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. If you're joining us, make sure you comment in the chat. Let me know you're here, whether you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, wherever you're joining in from. Let me know you're here. Every download folder. Have you peeked in your downloads folder on your computer lately? Every download folder represents decisions waiting to be made, okay? And the longer the decisions are postponed, the heavier everything feels. You're looking at piles, you're looking at an overflowing inbox, email or otherwise. You're looking at your downloads folder, it's overflowing. And so everything just feels like it's kind of weighing you down and you don't want to look at it. You don't want to deal with it. So I'm going to teach you today 6 questions that you can ask yourself that helps you make those decisions. Okay. This is called practicing the art of wastebasketry. Right. And Barbara, this is part of her methodology that she came up with decades ago. And it's still just as relevant today as it was back then. So a few things have changed, but overall it's the same foundational concepts. Okay. So question number 1, does it, whatever the piece of paper is or the email or whatever the item is, does this require action? Okay, that's the first question, no matter what you're looking at, paper, email, digital folder, download, something. That's the very first question, no matter what form the information is in. Does it require action? Okay, it's always the first question. Does something need to happen with this information or because of this information? Okay. Examples might be if it's a bill to pay. Okay, that's an action. It's something to be done. Is it a form that needs to be completed? Is it an email that needs to be replied to? Those are all actions, right? Action is a task, is a to-do. The ball's in your court to do something. Okay, another example might be a call to return, a meeting to schedule. Okay, so the meeting itself might be an event, but your action might be a note. You have a note, a piece of paper that's telling you to, or an email telling you to schedule this meeting. So there is an action related to that. So the answer to that question for that would be yes. Like, so all of those things, all of those examples, if the bill is due and there's a form to complete, email to answer, those are all answered yes. This does require action. Okay, if it requires action, then we already know automatically it's not reference information and it's not a toss. Reference information is no action required, just keep it for future reference. And toss is no action required, don't need to keep it for future reference, just let it go. So if you answered yes to this first question, is does it require action, then it belongs in your action system. Okay. But if the answer is no, it doesn't require action, you ask yourself another question. Well, I'll ask you more questions further down that will be related. Okay. So, but one of the biggest causes of clutter is treating action items like reference material. You might get a bunch of things in that you need to do, but they just pile. They sit in piles with other things that you just need to save for future reference. So we want to separate them. We want to sort them. And that's where what we call the first sort comes in. Okay. Again, whether it's paper, email, digital, whatever, it doesn't matter. You look at each item individually and you say, is this an action? Is this a reference? Or can I toss it? And then you've got your piles there. And then you ask yourself the art of wastebasketry question is, does this require action? So action is always first. Okay. Question number 2, you might have answered no. You're not sure if it requires action or not. So the next question would be, does it have a specific use? Okay. Ask yourself, why would I keep this? Why am I keeping this? What specific purpose does it serve? Okay. Examples might be tax documents. Okay. That's going to come up again later. Warranty information. Okay. Maybe you purchase something and you've got the warranty information and it makes sense to keep it. And so you confidently keep it. But let's say you don't even have that item anymore. You've tossed the item or it broke or you sold it at a yard sale, you sold it on Marketplace, whatever. Then it doesn't have a specific use anymore, right? So you want to get to that answer. Could be a travel itinerary. If you haven't traveled yet, then sure, it has a specific use. If you have already traveled and you don't need the itinerary anymore, you have a decision. You can keep it because it's a memory. You can put it in a reference folder, or you can toss it and say, nope, trip's done. I'm out. It's out. Toss it. Get rid of it. Okay. It might be client information. So again, the question number 2 is, does it have a specific use? Okay. If it's client information, are you still working with the client? Then I would probably keep that. If you're not, and it's been a matter of time, then you have a choice. Keep it in reference or toss it. Is it another example is an operating procedure. Again, does it have a specific use? Potentially. Okay. And so notice what I want you guys to think about this. Notice the difference between these two phrases that you might experience as you are going through your pile. Okay. As you're doing this sort. Okay. Number 1, the first part of this is, I have a reason for keeping this. Okay. Remember the question was, does this have a specific use? So think about how this feels. I have a reason for keeping this versus, I'm going to keep this because I might need it someday. Okay. They're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. So you can decide to keep it just in case. Barbara says just in case is not enough. So but that's up to you. But really you want to challenge yourself to see, does it have a specific use, or are you keeping it because you might need it someday? Okay. Think about that. Let's get to number 3. Question number 3. Would it be difficult to obtain again? So remember, you're trying to get to the point where you can confidently release things. If you've decided it's not an action, I don't really have a purpose for it, but you're still nervous about tossing it. So ask yourself, would it be difficult to obtain again? Now, back when Barbara came up with these Art of Wastebasketry questions, I don't even think the internet existed at that time. And then eventually later it did over time. But so it would have been difficult. People kept more things because they were difficult to obtain again. But today, in today's time, you can pretty much find anything that you're looking for online, right? So, and then we've got AI. I mean, everything is just so easy to get. But you may be looking at something that is no longer exists. It's not archived out there in the internet world somewhere. So you decide to keep it because it may be difficult to obtain again. Okay. So some of the questions that you can ask yourself about this one, this is question number 3. Would it be difficult to obtain again? And some questions that you can think through for this is, can I download it again? Okay. Can I search for it online? Can I request another copy? Maybe it's a banking thing or a business thing and somebody else has the information and you can just request another copy of it. Can you retrieve it from the source, whatever that source is? Okay. So, I mean, really, many people are storing information that is easier to retrieve online than it is to organize in your own space. So think that through. If it is difficult to obtain again, then maybe you keep an electronic copy of it in your Google Drive. You can link to it in your SoarBoard if you're one of our SoarBoard users. Or maybe you do keep the printed copy and it goes in your reference filing system. That's fine. But really think about it intentionally. Okay. So would it be difficult to obtain again? And when I said many people are storing information that's easier to retrieve somewhere else than it is to organize it yourself, some of those examples would be product manuals. Most product manuals are now available online, right? Or you can even just go to ChatGPT and say, how do I do this with this particular product? Okay, so that's one thing that could, you can test it. Like if you're looking at a product manual, you're trying to clean out your files, and let's say you do still have the product, go online and check and see if you're able to find the product manual or ask ChatGPT a question about it. And if you can get to what you need, then that might be something you let go. Restaurant menus. How many of you guys are keeping restaurant menus? Those menus might be outdated. And so it might be, and even if they're not, it's easy just to go online now and look up a restaurant and click on menu and see their menu online. So if you've got restaurant menus lingering around your space, now might be a time to let those go confidently. Event flyers, same thing. Most events have things online that you can get to. Public articles, again, if you can find them online. Now, we didn't have the online stuff so much when Barbara created these questions, but we certainly do now. So there may be things lurking in the piles on your desk, or in your filing cabinet that are just taking up space. So these are just some examples. So if this is triggering anything for you, let us know if you decide to go delete some things or discard some things. And just sometimes the best filing system is knowing where to find it again outside of your space, just online somewhere, right? All right, so let me share Kathy's comment. Kathy, music, new path productivity. I love these questions. They're so helpful in processing through uncertainty without high emotions tied to it. Exactly. These are very practical questions. They're practical questions, and there's no should. It's not what Barbara says. It's not what should you do. It's what will you do, right? And again, it goes back to the cost factor that you can keep. You don't even have to listen to any of these questions. You can keep anything that you want as long as you're willing to pay the price, and that's in time, space, money, and energy. But if you're wanting to thin the herd and clear some clutter, these are some questions you can ask yourself so that you can confidently let things go. Okay. Number 4, and these questions, some of them may feel like they overlap a little bit, but they all work together. So number 4 is it recent enough to be useful? Okay. Information has a shelf life. And that could be, I touched on this a little earlier, that could be old software instructions or appliance instructions that you don't have anymore, or the software, especially software, it's updated, and what you have your existing instructions are no longer valid because the software has changed. Okay. Outdated procedures. By the time you create SOPs, standard operating procedures, things could change and it needs to be updated. So why are you keeping the copies? Maybe you have multiple copies of the past stuff. Maybe it's time to update those and then let that paper go, or those digital files go. Okay. Old contact lists. If you've got old lists of people, I mean, depending on how old we're talking, you can probably find their new updated contact information somewhere. And again, I think I was working with one of our SOAR members here who found a very, very old, like 20 plus years old contact list, and determined that those people probably weren't in the same place or had the same cell phone or whatever from all those years ago. So things like that. And then like maybe pricing sheets, older former pricing sheets. Okay. So the question isn't, was this useful? The question is it useful now? Okay. So that was number 4. Is it recent enough to be useful? Is it useful now? And if it's not, then practice the art of wastebasketry and toss it into the wastebasket. Okay. There we go. All right. So some information must be retained. Oh, sorry. I jumped ahead to question number 5. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Question number 5. This is a really important one. Okay. So if you've answered, let's say you've answered no to questions 1 through 4, and you're still not sure if you should keep it or toss it. The next question is, are there tax or legal implications? Okay. And you could add business. Are there tax, legal, or business reasons to keep it? Okay. So some information must be retained, such as tax records, right? Contracts, insurance policies, estate documents, licenses, and business records. Okay. So This question, unlike the others, this question helps distinguish between information you want to keep and information you need to keep. Okay. Now, also, if you work for a company, you might want to check and see what records are required for you to keep, if any. Okay. So most companies have a records retention document of some sort that tells you, we must keep these for how long. And we actually have one. It's Barbara's paper retention guide. And if you would like a copy of that, I'm going to tell you how to get it. You can go to our website, productiveenvironment.com, and there's a contact link, contact button at the bottom of the homepage. I think it's at the bottom of every page. Yeah. And you can click contact. Okay. And just send a message that comes to me and Ed's, who is our queen behind the scenes, wind beneath our wings. It comes to both of us, and we can respond and send you access to that document. So it's a paper retention guide, and it has information that we know of, things that you need to keep for a certain amount of time, but it also has place for you to fill in. So it's kind of like almost like a workbook for you. You can fill in the other places. And you can, if you don't know, if there's no rule regarding how long to keep something, you can decide yourself. You say, you know what, I want to keep this. I don't want to toss this yet. So I will keep it for 1 more year. So you might create your own standard of the time frame for you to keep something. Okay. So again, if you would like our Productive Environment paper retention guide, I think is the title of it, send us a message, go to productiveenvironment.com, contact, and just say, hey, I'd love to have that document, the paper retention guide. Put paper retention guide in it so we know what you're talking about. All right. And some of those examples, which actually I just read, let me just read them to you again. Tax records, contracts, insurance policies, estate documents, licenses, business records. Okay. So again, not what you want to keep or think you should keep, but that you need to keep. And number 6, okay, this is the last one. And if you really are short on time when you're processing these questions and you're processing your paper and your email and you're short on time, you can skip the first 5 and come to this last question. And this question is, what is the worst thing that could happen if I threw it away? Okay. What's the worst thing that could happen if I threw it away? So if you skip 1 through 5 to come straight to this question, and if you can live with the answer to that question, then toss it. That gives you space. Okay. But if you're like, oh my gosh, the worst thing that could happen if I threw this away is I could get a fine, or somebody could ask me for something that would be horrible if I wasn't able to find it to give it to them. So walk through that. So here's another way of thinking about this. Most of us think, what if I need it? Okay. Most of us think if we're prepared, if we've got something in our hands or it's an email, we're like, I want to throw it away. I think I can throw it away, but what if I need it? Okay. So turn that question around and ask instead, what if I don't keep it? Okay. Because what if I need it? You could come up with lots of different stories. You can make up a bunch of stories in your own head about, oh, I might need it for this, or I might need it for that. So instead ask, what if I don't keep it? What if I don't keep it? Okay. So what happens? Often the answer to that is nothing, or it might be a minor inconvenience if you don't keep it. Oh, nothing. I can get another copy. Or even I could recreate it. So it's not really a big deal. So this question alone helps expose, I don't know if you've ever heard of this phrase before, but it helps expose fear-based keeping. Does that hit home with any of you guys? Fear-based keeping. We're keeping things because we're afraid, okay, that something's going to happen, or maybe it's even FOMO, fear of missing out. If you don't have this item anymore, you're going to miss out on something. But just keep in mind that fear-based keeping creates clutter. Okay. So if you are sitting there or driving or wherever, and you are thinking about your workspace and you have lots of stuff that you've been holding on to for years, maybe decades, maybe there's some fear-based keeping going on there. And I want to encourage you to practice the art of wastebasketry. Just ask yourself these questions. Now, it took me 25 minutes to teach you those questions. You might think, well, it's going to take too much time to go through those questions for every piece of paper and every email. No, it eventually, that's why we do a lot of repetition. Eventually, those questions are just like, they'll come to you and you'll quickly be able to make those decisions. Okay. They will become second nature to you. Okay. So again, I want to wrap up here. The art of wastebasketry is not about getting rid of things. Okay. That's not really the goal. It's about making decisions with confidence. Okay. All right. Every item ultimately belongs in one of three places initially: action, reference, or toss. And the faster you make those decisions, the less clutter accumulates. Okay. Because again, it all circles back to clutter, because clutter is postponed decisions. And organizing, I don't know if you've ever thought of it this way, organizing is the process of making those decisions. Organizing is not about the color-coded file folders or the perfectly beautiful labels or any of that. Organizing is the process of making the decisions about your information. All right, let me share a couple things here. Kathy says, fear-based keeping, such a great phrase, right? And a prior statistic from Barbara is that 80% of what we keep, we never use. Amen. And we take up space in our life with it. Yeah. I mean, space, time, money, energy, and 80% of it we never use again, but we're keeping it because of, well, fear-based keeping and postponed decisions. And they are really entwined. They come hand in hand, right? We're not taking the time to be intentional about what we're keeping. And I want to applaud those of you that are making progress in that area. If you're in our SOAR to Success program, SOAR means systemize and organize with action and reference. I applaud you, because little by little, it doesn't happen overnight. The clutter didn't appear overnight either, did it? But little by little, week by week, you're making decisions and things are moving. They're moving. They're no longer stagnant in piles or overflowing file drawers, just stuffed with stuff that's nothing's happening to it. Our SOAR members are moving through those things every single week and releasing things. So let me pop over Ann here. She's a SOAR member. I think I might have a lot of fear-based keeping. I love that term. Yeah, fear-based keeping. So it gives us a little different perspective on what we're doing. So as I wrap up, let me do two things here, Eds. If you guys are new to us and you would like to have, if you're not new to us, you probably already have this, but we have a PDF document and we call it our Office Transformation Blueprint. And it lists a couple of different things, but it includes the art of wastebasketry questions. And how you get that for free is to fill out our scorecard. Actually, Ed's, do they get it with the less? Yeah, it's the scorecard. Yeah. So go fill out your productive environment, get your productive environment score. Okay. You'll find out what your productivity score is. And when you get your score at the end, it takes you 2 to 3 minutes to fill this out. You'll get your score, and then you will also get a document that you can download. And, we don't love a lot of paper, but this is one we actually do recommend you download and print out and put somewhere in your space. All right, that's number one. Number two is we have a workshop called SOAR into Action, the Art of Organizing Information. Okay, it's on your screen. And for those listening, it is workshop.productiveenvironment.com. And we offer the workshop live as well as on demand. So go, depending on when you're watching this video, you'll see either a live version or an on-demand version where you can watch it right now. Workshop.productiveenvironment.com. And it is an actual workshop. You're doing things, not just a passive watch. You're actually taking action. And we will apply the concepts that I've talked about today to paper, email, digital files, notes, tasks, etc. You will learn the ART framework, which is action, reference, toss, and how to apply that. And you'll see how you've heard me mention the SOAR board. You'll see how the SOAR board helps turn information into action so you can accomplish your work and enjoy your life. And you will get your own SOAR board with the workshop. Okay. It's a software, it's online. We don't sell it separately by itself as a technology tool. We believe in psychology before technology. And the psychology is the things that we're teaching here, the decision-making process. So psychology before technology. So the registration link is on the screen. It's also going to be in the description box, workshop.productiveenvironment.com. And right before we go, Maureen says, this gives me the motivation to go through my reference files, digital and physical, and review what I can toss. Right, Maureen? I agree. There is some space that can be made in our reference files if we just stop long enough to say, and I did this the other day. I shared, Maureen is a SOAR member also. So she's working on this stuff, week by week with us. And I did a Sunday afternoon not long ago where I was going through things, and I went through my reference files and I found manuals to appliances that were in a condo I lived in 3 years ago. Things like that. So there are things that you can easily ask yourself those Art of Wastebasketry questions and get rid of, and that will save you time, space, money, and energy. Okay? So thank you for joining us this week, this episode of PEPTalk, Productive Environment Podcast, and I will see you on the next one and hope to see you in our workshop. So go check it out, workshop.productiveenvironment.com. Thanks for joining us.